the point of applying, I was a research fellow at IIS in the Netherlands and at the South Asian Institute in Heidelberg. So I was looking for the next best place to do my research. And then I realized that among most of my heroes and heroines, so the young scholars that I looked up to as inspiring scholars, most of them at some point in their career had been at ARI. And that obviously encouraged me to apply. Also, it's quite hard not to run into scholarship from ARI-based scholars, right? I think anyone who's passionate about their research on Asia at some point will run into some exceptional scholarship that is done by scholars based at ARI. Also, I got to know about the Asia Research Institute through international conferences, right? I think ARI has a lot of visibility in international conferences on Asian studies, so it's difficult not to notice scholars based at ARI. At that point, I was living in the Netherlands for more than 2 years, so I needed a change. The Netherlands can be a little bit boring after 2 years. Everything is flat, it rains all the time, the food is very depressing. Actually, I loved my life in Leiden. my heart is still in Leiden, but it was not hard to convince my partner to relocate to Singapore and change scenario. Well, obviously, a lot of the people I was reading and citing are here. They're just one floor away from ARI, and they were excited to having me here. And this is something special about ARI. It's not a governmental think tank, it's not a privately owned research lab. It is embedded in the larger community of scholars and students in NUS and its environment. So it can really connect people, and it connects you to the social and scholarly community, which means you can walk out of ARI and enjoy, the hornbills and the hummingbirds, and see the bats when you come to the office early in the morning, and go for a lunch break with your colleagues and have all the food options available in Asia and beyond, because Singapore takes its food very seriously. So somehow becoming part of ARI is like joining a big extended Asian family. It's not that everybody knows each other, not in that sense, but in the sense that you have a huge support network of people you can collaborate with, of opportunities, and people you can rely upon. So just like any big extended family, there might be that, that auntie that you find really annoying, that cousin you always end up quarreling, arguing about politics, but at the end you still know that you're there for them and they can rely upon you. And then there's your more immediate family. So there's your cluster members, your immediate colleagues, your cluster leader, who are the people you end up going out for dinner with, but also writing books with and writing new research projects with. So in that way, it really gives you a huge support network as a larger community of scholars. I think that ARI has been shaping the field of Asian studies and defining its parameters already for the past 20 years, right? So I think recently there has been a tendency to see area studies as obsolete and decaying, right? There's been a push to prioritize instead flows, mobilities, and connections instead of fixed geopolitical entities. But that's what Asian studies at ARI already means. It already means to consider Asia as global in comparative, transnational, and interconnected lenses. So it has its foundations based in regional expertise, while encouraging Asian studies in a comparative, global and transnational dimension. I think ARI changed the scope of Asian studies as a field, but it also changed the way in which the rest of the academic world looks at Asian studies as a field. In the sense that Asian studies has been in the past peripheral in the larger academic world, which is still very much Eurocentric and ethnocentric, and again, prioritizing big disciplines and big theories from the West. And it used to enjoy relatively less recognition and prestige in the larger domain of modern academia. But what the contribution of ARI in the present and in the future of Asian studies is to really demonstrate that Asia can be an intellectual springboard to theorize more broadly about relevant global issues. So in other words, the kind of scholarship and the approach of the Asia Research Institutes shows that case studies, theories and methods from Asia should be used, should be applied to relevant issues globally. And in this way, not only we dislodge the methodological, theoretical priority of Euro-American scholarship, so not only we contribute to a decolonization of knowledge, but we also work towards a more diverse, inclusive and rich academia. The kind of scholarship that ARI encourages can show that Asia can work as an intellectual springboard to theorize more broadly on relevant global issues. ARI offers space in terms of headspace, creative freedom, freedom to experiment, bounce ideas and use your critical thinking and your wild academic imagination in the field of Asian studies, right? So in doing so, ARI has drawn to Singapore hundreds and hundreds of brilliant minds in the field of Asian studies. In so doing, it has turned Singapore into one of the most important hubs for research on Asia. So a lot of these scholars were drawn to Singapore because of ARI. After a while, they fall in love with this puzzling place and they start doing research on Singapore and its cultural history and society. And many of them feel like nesting and staying for a long term. So many of the scholars that arrived in Singapore in the first place because of the Asia Research Institute ended up staying here long term, enriching the local community of scholars.